everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and this is Stitched Up. So I'm back today to do a pattern review, and I've not done one of these for ages. And yeah, I thought it would be fun to talk to you about my newest make, which is what I'm wearing. This is the Marnie by Tilly and the Buttons. It's their newest release. It came out last week, I think it was, or a couple of weeks ago anyway. And I am going to be completely honest. When I saw the pattern envelope for this pattern, my first thoughts were no, just no. It really wasn't my style at all, and I didn't think the styling on the envelope appealed to me in the slightest. However, things subtly changed, as they sometimes do when people start making up new patterns. And the lovely Deborah, who is Deborah Sewing and Style, she was in the last series of the Great British Sewing Bee last year. No, was it last year? No, it was earlier this year. Made a version of this blouse, and oh my word, I'm going to insert it here. I fell in love as soon as I saw this version. I just thought it was absolutely gorgeous, and I really think that they should have used that as their styling on the pattern envelope. But anyway, we won't go there. But yes, as soon as I saw that version, I fell in love, and I just thought, yes, I need this pattern. So I bought it last week. I bought it on PDF. And I made it up, and this is what I'm wearing. So I am going to put some better pictures in so you can have a good look at this blouse, but I absolutely love it. I really, really do. Just putting it out there, I will never make the dress, absolutely, because I do think the styling on the envelope for the dress version is really aimed at the younger end of the market, sort of that 18 to 25 range. It really looks like that on the pattern envelope, and I just don't think that I would ever make that, because I would look like I was wearing a nightie or a Victorian nightshirt or something. So it's not for me. But the blouse, especially made up like Deborah did, I absolutely love. So let me tell you a little bit more about the pattern first, and then I will talk to you a bit more about the version I made. So the Marnie is a pattern for woven fabrics. Now, Tilly has a bit of a reputation, I would say, for making patterns that are geared towards the more beginner sewists, but I would say this is much more geared towards the intermediate sewer, dependent on the fabric that you choose. It is designed for lightweight woven fabric, so they suggest things such as seersucker, cotton lawn, which is what I used, lightweight linens it mentions as well, those kinds of fabrics. It does mention that you can use viscose and tencel, but you would need to leave off the tucks. Having made this pattern, I would highly recommend that you don't make this in viscose if you want to make the tucks, because it would be very, very challenging to get the tucks absolutely precise, and they need to be precise so that it looks nice. So this pattern comes in a UK size 6 to 34, which equates to a 30 to a 60 inch bust. But Tilly's sizing is, she sizes them in numbers. So it's a size 1 to 15. And I made a straight size 5. And the only variation is that I lengthened the bodice pieces, which I'll come to a little bit later. The finished measurements of the size 1 is a 45.5 inch bust from a 30 inch. So you've got 15 inches of ease. And the finished measurement of the 60 inch bust is a 75 3/4 inch. So that 15 inches is still there throughout the full size range. As I say, I made a straight size 5, and that is probably slightly less than my current full bust measurement. However, I wanted the ease, and there definitely is a lot of ease in this blouse. You can make a blouse or dress, but there are lots and lots of elements to this pattern. So you've got lots of opportunity to tailor it to your own sense of style, really. So essentially, the main blouse has a yoke front and back with a keyhole and loop and button fastening at the neck. It has a version where you can have the Victoriana collar, which is what I've got on here, which is like a little frill, and then a straight collar just underneath, which goes all the way around and fastens in the back. I will show you how it fastens in the back. You can see, hopefully you can see, because I can't see you, this gorgeous little button, which was just a button from my stash, and it's just a clear plastic button. No idea where I got it from, but it's really cute, and I thought it fit the style of this really well. You have sleeves which are gathered into the sleeve head, and it has a normal sleeve which just comes to sort of mid upper arm, and then you have a gathered balloon sleeve which extends to your wrist. Now, I didn't lengthen these sleeves. Normally I do lengthen sleeves because with me being 5'10" and I've got really long arms, I always have to put at least 3/4 of an inch onto sleeve length, but I didn't with these because I did want them bracelet length, and I think they fit me really well. I'm really happy with this length of sleeve. And then you've got these beautiful little tucks, so you can either put tucks on the front yoke and the sleeves, or you can leave them off. And then it has another version that has just a straight collar without the little frilly detail above. And then finally you have another element of adding ruffles to the sleeve heads. Now, as I mentioned, I've talked a little bit about the pattern envelope, and I do think the dress version on the pattern envelope, because of their fabric choice and the print of that fabric, it's very difficult to see the design elements that she's used on that particular sample. So I can't tell looking at that whether whether she's put everything on it or whether she's left everything off and it's just a plain version. I'm not quite sure. The model with the blouse version, the plain lilac top, obviously you can see the elements a little bit clearer. Everything is on that, and to be honest, I just think it's just overload. It's just ruffle overload for me. It might appeal to you. Obviously that's where design and style and everybody's own aesthetic comes in, isn't it? But for me, it is just a bit too much. And I think that's probably what put me off this pattern, because I just thought, oh gosh, I mean, I love a ruffle like most people. Well, not most people, but I do love a ruffle. And yeah, I love the feminine aspect of it. I'm really into the boho vibe at the moment. And yeah, I do love a ruffle, but I just think the ruffles on the sleeve heads, as well as every other element on this pattern, is just a bit too much. So I didn't go with the ruffles. I left those off, a la Deborah. So fabric requirements for this obviously vary dependent on which elements you're using and whether you're making the blouse or the full dress version, and dependent on the size that you are. It recommends between 2.5 right up to 4 meters of fabric. And again, that is very much dependent on the fabric that you choose and the width of your fabric. Obviously, if you're using 45-inch fabric, you're going to need a bit more than you are if you are using 60-inch wide fabric. This particular fabric I've used is a cotton lawn that I got from Abakhan a couple of years ago. I really don't know if they've still got this in stock. They did have it in a white version as well, and I've made a tessuti top out of the white version, but I thought this would look really nice in this pattern. When you're choosing a fabric for this blouse, I would suggest, if you are going for a patterned fabric, then you need to choose something, especially if you're going to put these tucks on, that is going to show up the elements of this pattern. If you choose something that's like a ditzy print or with a very sort of concentrated print on it, it's going to be very difficult to see some of these elements. But if you're leaving the tucks off, then obviously it doesn't really matter. But I did want to put these tucks on. I do love tucks, and I've not done them for years because there aren't actually that many patterns out there, particularly modern patterns in the indie community, that actually have tucks in them. And so when I saw this, I thought, you know, it's a really nice design feature, and it will be interesting to have another go at it. So if I just come a little bit closer, I will show you the tucks on this blouse, as you can see here. So what you do is, obviously you do the tucks before you construct the garment. You do the tucks, and the same with the sleeves. You do the tucks on the sleeve before you join the sleeve together. The instructions are really good on how to do this, and Tilly does link to a blog post to help you with this. I haven't looked at the blog post, I will admit, but I sort of figured it out what she wanted me to do. But essentially you do the tucks, and then you you press the tucks up and then down once the 4 tucks are completed. and then you need to stitch them. So you stitch them down in the center of the yoke, and then your next stitching is about 1.5 inches away, and you stitch through the tucks, pressing them upwards and then down and then upwards again, and it just creates this sort of wavy effect in the tucks, and it just looks really nice. And yes, I enjoyed doing them. They weren't too time consuming, but I would say, I mean, most of you know that I'm a really quick sewer. I would say this took me about 4 to 5 hours to complete because of all these elements in it, but I think it really has resulted in such a beautiful top, and this particular fabric pattern is perfect for it because you can still see those elements, and it just feels really luxurious. I absolutely love it. The instructions again for attaching the collar are great. It's all encased inside with bias binding. There is no lining to this, and I did initially, when you put the loop on the back neckline, I did initially think about lining this, but I knew I wanted to do a pattern review for you, and I thought before I go down that road, I'm just going to follow the instructions as they are and make it up as the instructions tell you to do so, which is what I've done. I think you probably could do a lining for it, you know, lining the yoke and do the burrito method to keep it all nice and neat inside. And I might actually try that next time, because there will be a next time. I will never ever put the ruffles on the shoulder because I just feel with the balloon sleeves, it's even leaving the tucks off, I think it would just be too much for me. But otherwise, I will definitely make this again because I absolutely love it. I think it's gorgeous. And I would say that out of a lot of Tilly's recent releases, this is absolutely my favourite, and I'm so pleased that she's finally branching out into something a little bit more technical, a little bit more challenging. If you are going to be doing the tucks, I would highly recommend ensuring that when you are cutting out your pattern pieces, the yoke pieces have little notches which tell you where the tucks are going to be. You need to make sure they are absolutely precise when you are snipping the notches, so that you can make sure everything is level and you get your tucks nice and neat and equally spaced. That's really important, and that's why I would say if you've never done tucks before, and if this kind of technique is new to you, you're a fairly new sewer, but you want to have a go at it, have a go at it, but don't use a viscose or a drapey fabric. I would have been tempted before making this to make it in a viscose because I was a little bit worried about the blouson effect that you would get with a stiffer fabric. So I think if you go for anything heavier than a cotton lawn, you are going to get a more blouson effect. If you look at the model with the plain blouse version on the pattern envelope, that's a much more blouson effect than I would particularly enjoy. So I would say that a cotton lawn is probably the heaviest I would want to go, and it's not too blouson, as you'll see from the photos that I've put in. I think it just looks so nice. I have worn this loose with tight trousers, and that looks really nice. I think if I was going to wear it with wide leg trousers, I would tuck it in and maybe just have it sort of a little bit blouson around my waist. But it's a really nice transitional piece for this time of year. I think it will be great through autumn and even into winter. And the good thing about these sleeves is that they aren't too blouson-y, that you wouldn't be able to get a cardigan over the top as well. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's gorgeous, and I'm so pleased that Deborah did her yellow one because it's just stunning. And without that, I would just have completely never looked at this pattern again, I don't think. So yeah, it's really interesting because I've seen quite a few people that are a little bit in two minds about this fabric, that, you know, on first glance it's not something that they feel is to their taste. But I think it's interesting to see that when other people start tailoring these patterns to their own tastes and you put your own stamp on it, how you can turn something into something that works for you. So I think it's taught me a bit of a lesson, really, to not just dismiss something offhand straight away. It's not like going into a shop and buying a ready-wear blouse where you pick something up and think, oh no, I don't like it. With sewing, you can make it your own. So yeah, I really love it and will highly recommend it. Everything works really, really well. I feel that this is the first Tilly pattern that I have made since I made the indigo a couple of years ago, and I struggled with the shoulder seams on that pattern because they were too far back. And I know that when I mentioned that in my vlog at the time, a few people mentioned that they'd had the same issue. So I don't know whether that's a particular drafting issue with that pattern, but with this one, the shoulder seams are hitting me dead central on the shoulder, so it's great. And as I mentioned, the only adjustment I made to this pattern was to lengthen the bodice, and that's the bodice that's gathered into the yoke here. I lengthened that by about 1 inch. That is it. I didn't make any other adjustments at all. I do think that the proportions, and I think it's probably because I'm 5'10", but I think the proportions of the yoke to the bodice are probably slightly off for me, and I think again that's because of my height. I would like to when I make this again, I think I would like to just lower the yoke by probably about 1 inch so that the yoke comes down just a little bit more. It is, I mean, obviously the gathering into the yoke is designed to give you the fullness that you require for your bust, to give you that shaping there. And this hits me well above where my bust starts. And I think, yeah, I think I just need that extra inch. So I think what I will do is the inch that I've added to the bodice length, I will remove that and add it to the yoke next time, front and back, and just see how that looks. And yeah, it's all about tinkering, isn't it, and seeing how things go. I probably next time as well will French seam this. I haven't this time. I've been really naughty and overlocked it on my overlocker, but again, that was because it is a time consuming make. As I said, it took me about 4 to 5 hours to make this, and I'm a quick sewer. Obviously, if I was French seaming it all and lining the yoke, which I'd really like to do, it would take me longer. So, you know, you need to bear that in mind. And I wanted to get this done because I wanted to wear it for work the next day, which I did. So I hope you like my new top, and I hope you've enjoyed this pattern review, and if it's given you some ideas yourself. And yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below, because I always love hearing from you. That's it from me today, guys, but hopefully I'll be back with you really soon. Take care. Bye.